On the 23rd of February 2022, Tweed Shire was struck by one of the biggest floods recorded in Tweed's history. The floods affected multiple localities in the Tweed Shire, including Tumbulgum, Bolinga, Pottsville, and Tweed Head South. The Tweed River at Murwillumbah peaked at 6.5 meters above sea level, which was over 200 millimeters higher than the 2017 floods, which was the second worst recorded floods in Tweed Head's history. The floods were primarily a riverine flood caused by widespread localized heavy rainfall over the Tweed catchment area. At the start of 2022, Tweed Shire experienced a very wet summer. There was above average rainfall falling over the Tweed catchment. Throughout February and March in 2022, a blocking high pressure system was experienced in northern New South Wales, located in the Tasman Sea, which resulted in extremely humid conditions along most of the coast. On the 27th and 28th of February, this high pressure weather system, combined with a slow moving trough, created an incredibly heavy rainstorm that lasted for many days in the northern rivers of New South Wales. The largest amount of rainfall during the floods was produced after midnight on the 28th of February and lasted until March 1st. There had been large amounts of downpour before this on the 23rd and 24th of February, which with over 200 millimeters falling at Chillingham over 2 days. That meant that throughout the 27th of February and the 1st of March, more than 690 millimeters of rainfall was recorded in Chillingham. In most of the other parts of Tweed, over 900 millimeters of downpour was recorded in this period of time. Major floods in Richmond, Wilsons, and Tweed catchment areas were exceeding 2 meters, including Lismore, which reached 14.37 meters in height. The usual flood level of 9.7 meters in height was exceeded by 4.67 meters. This extreme amount of rainfall made it one of, if not the most, significant weather events to ever affect the Tweed region. The floods had a huge impact on our local communities. Many people had to be evacuated from their homes, finding temporary refuge in evacuation centers with friends and family or elsewhere. For many people, the water rose so fast they didn't have time to leave and had to be rescued from their rooftops. Once the water subsided, over 1,600 people required temporary housing or accommodation, and more than 500 homes were left uninhabitable. More than 26,000 tons of floodwater, which is over double the weight of the Eiffel Tower, and 75,000 tons of mud debris was collected, the equivalent to 10,000 elephants. It had one of the largest flood levels ever recorded in Murwillumbah. Over 2,100 homes were damaged, and the cost to Tweed Council was a total of $340 million, and an estimated $57 million was lost by 193 Tweed businesses that responded to a council survey. The floods were the worst recorded in Tweed's history, leading to devastating widespread property and public infrastructure damage. Flooded waters destroyed wildlife habitats, which caused the displacement of many animals and increased competition for limited dry land. Many animals were injured during the floods and were taken to wildlife hospitals and carers across the region. The floods also disrupted breeding seasons for wildlife, like turtles with their homes being washed away. Trees had to be cut down and shipped away. Roads were flooded. Businesses and schools were closed. Minimal flood was left in supermarkets, especially fresh foods like vegetables, fruits, meats, and dairy products. Trucks were stopped on highways due to floodwaters, and many people even lost electricity. There was widespread displacement during the floods, as many residents lost their homes and had to go to emergency accommodation, along with notable disruption in the community life and infrastructure, impacting social and cultural assets, businesses, and the ability to engage in community life. There was an immediate need for basic assets like water and housing. After the event, many residents experienced grief, distress, anxiety, and even PTSD. As a result of the floods and loss of possessions, their homes, and even loved ones, the mental health effects are still ongoing today, contributing to the prolonged and challenging nature of the recovering process for many people. The state of emergency service played a key role during the floods. As the leading agency for storms and floods, they were responsible for managing the overall emergency response in Tweed Heads and the surrounding areas that were affected. The SES also provided crucial information and safety advice to residents through the flood bulletins and other services to help civilians protect themselves. They deployed over 5,000 members and volunteers to help support response efforts across the region. Evacuation centres in Tweed Heads were set up by the New South Wales Department of Communities and Justice, with significant support from the Salvation Army for the provision of for food, and the SES for lead management and coordination. Local TAFE facilities and the Salvation Army Center was utilized, and coordinators called in on assistance from the community members for donations of bedding, food, clothing, and things like sanitary products. The New South Wales government establishing a temporary housing program to help find the displaced residents emergency accommodation. The New South Wales Reconstruction Authority managed the Northern Rivers floods, a flood recovery program, which provided the procurement and construction of short-term accommodation in 11 villages for many residents who had lost their homes. They also provided short-term income support payments for people who had lost their income during the floods. Council focus was initially on the provision of safe drinking water and re-establishing the wastewater network, safely restoring access to roads, and providing waste and cleanup options. The Mother Army initiated a private rescue service acting independently for many days. Many residents of Tweedshire volunteered their time and belongings, such as jet skis, boats, and vehicles to assist and rescue residents and deliver necessities like food, water, and clothing. Even Mick Fanning worked with the Mud Army to help residents on a jet ski, assisting with rescues. Community members provided hands-on assistance, connecting people with services, helping with the cleanup and rebuilding efforts. During the floods, the Australian Defence Force responded by deploying thousands of personnel across the region, including the Navy, Army, and Air Force personnel. They also sent engineers and other services to clear debris, open up roads, clean up the rubbish, and restore access to vital infrastructure and communities. The Australian Defence Force personnel worked with the local residents and council crews, cleaning flood-damaged buildings, removing debris, contaminated soil, and damaged cars. So, in conclusion, the February-March 2022 floods were a catastrophic event and the worst in Tweed's recorded history. They caused devastating widespread damage to homes and infrastructure, the total cost of the flooding for the Tweed not being a single figure, but a cumulative amount of residential losses, businesses, and infrastructure. The ongoing recovery and restoration process priorities resilience, with the majority of major projects expected to be completed by 2028. Significant efforts are taking place to build infrastructure, including roads, community buildings, and bridges. They are incorporating flood-resistant designs and materials that will withstand future events and enhance the safety and financial stability of the community.